I would like to rage. An iconic statement said by all the most famous barbarians of our time. Today we are going to talk about all of the different ways that you can rage in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm going to go over the 10 primal paths that have been released by Wizards of the Coast up until this point. As always, I'm going to make sure that I have timestamps for every single one of our barbarian subclasses, so that if you don't want to watch the whole video, you can just skip ahead to the one that interests you the most. Barbarians are one of the most nuanced and interesting classes in Dungeons & Dragons. Their origins are not always connected to magic, but they could also be connected to their ancestors, their culture, their history, and all of that makes for a very interesting role-playing element when we're talking about barbarians. Many of the barbarians we're going to talk about use the ferocity of nature and the land around them, even totems made from the spirits of animals. It might be easy for some people to fall into the trap of playing a barbarian as just a mindless rage monster all the time. However, if you incorporate traditions and culture into your character, it's going to make your role-playing so much more interesting. The primal paths help you on this journey and help you kind of decide where you want that source of power, that rage, that energy, that magic to come from. As of now, there are 9 barbarian subclasses available from Wizards of the Coast printed materials. I'm sure we're going to get more barbarians going forward, but this is just a compiled list of everything that has been released so far. This list is going to include barbarians from the Player's Handbook, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Starting us off in the Player's Handbook, we have the Path of the Berserker and the Path of the Totem Warrior. The Berserker is a barbarian that embraces the carnal rage that is within their soul. They let the rage suffuse their body, and they allow the energy to take complete control over their body and their mind. At level 3, the Berserker gains the ability to go into a frenzied rage. This rage allows the barbarian to make an extra attack as a bonus action. Unfortunately, there's a big downside to this ability, as when that frenzied rage ends, the barbarian suffers 1 level of exhaustion. Some would say that that price is easily paid. At level 6, the Berserker's rage becomes mindless, meaning that they can't be affected by charms or fears. This is a huge boon to a character who may not have the highest wisdom. It really helps when the mindless, frenzied barbarian stays on your side and is not working for the other team. At 10th level, the Berserker gets Intimidating Presence. The Berserker can force another creature to make a wisdom saving throw on their turn. If they fail, they are frightened from the Berserker for their whole round. The Intimidating Presence can actually be maintained indefinitely, which could effectively remove a creature from the fight if they are so frightened of the barbarian that they can't even move closer. Finally, at level 14, Berserkers get the ability called Retaliate. When they are attacked and they are hit by an enemy creature, they can use their reaction to just attack them back. This just increases their ability to output damage quickly. When enemies surround them, they can use their reaction to hit back whenever they are hit. Unfortunately, they only have 1 reaction a turn, so it could be a little bit limited. Clearly, Berserkers are extremely heavy in the brawling department. They are all about dishing out as many attacks as they can in 1 turn. This is a great way for a barbarian to get all their attention from the enemies right onto them, where it belongs. The Path of the Totem Warrior is one of the most complicated and one of the most rewarding barbarian subclasses. There's so much customization in this subclass, it makes it really interesting to play. Totem Warriors accept a spiritual journey by selecting a spirit animal as a guide. That guide can act as a protector and inspiration for their powers. The animals could represent a bloodline from a clan of barbarians. It could represent a magical beast that bestowed its powers upon the people, or it could just simply be a spiritual journey that one is pursuing on their quest. These totems bestow a barbarian's rage with magical abilities. The interesting part is it also gives you many choices. The rage is fueled from the magical energy of these spiritual animals. At level 3 is when the Totem Warrior has to make its first important choice. Not only are they going to get new abilities, but they have to decide which spiritual animal they're going to follow. First, they become a Spirit Seeker. This allows them to cast Beast Sense and speak with animals as a ritual spell. Now they can become attuned with nature and communicate with the spirits that they have chosen. Additionally, once the Barbarian takes this path and chooses a spirit animal, they have 5 options as of now. They can choose from bear, eagle, elk, wolf, and tiger. Obviously, barbarians are able to flavor these animals as different animals if that suits your needs. Each of these totems has unique abilities that you get at 3rd, 6th, and 14th level when you take this path. I'm going to go over all of the totems at the end of this section, and I'll go over each individual one, and I will make sure I timestamp them for you. At 10th level, all Totem Warriors get an ability called Spirit Walker. This simply allows them to cast Commune with Nature as a ritual. A spiritual version of the animal that they chose as their totem will appear to them and give them information. Now let's talk about each of the specific totems. First, we have the bear. Bear totem is an extremely powerful totem, and a lot of people like this one. At level 3, the bear totem gives you resistance to all forms of damage except for psychic damage while you're raging. This makes you incredibly tanky, and you take half as much damage as anybody else would in most situations. At level 6, the bear totem gains Might of the Bear. This doubles your maximum carrying capacity, so the amount of weight you can carry, and the amount that you can lift. It also gives you advantage on most strength checks. Pretty great when you're trying to be a big strong bear of a creature. Finally, at 14th level, you become the ultimate tank. Any creature within 5 feet of you has disadvantage on any attacks it makes on creatures other than you. That means that they have to attack you if they want to have a normal attack, and if they don't attack you, they're going to have disadvantage. The Eagle Totem's level 3 ability makes it so that if you're not wearing heavy armor, opponents have disadvantage on attacks made during the opportunity phase. This makes it easier to dip and dodge and get away from enemies. It also makes it so that you can dash as a bonus action on your turn. At level 6, you gain the eyesight of an eagle. It makes it so that you can see something up to a mile away as if it was only 100 feet from you. Additionally, if you're in darkness, you don't have disadvantage on wisdom perception checks. This can be really helpful for delving into those caves and looking around, keeping an eye out for your party. Finally, at level 14, you gain a flying speed. The soul of the eagle actually lifts you up into the air. Your flying speed is equal to your movement. So if you have a 30 feet movement, you can still fly 30 feet. However, you don't have the ability to hover, meaning that your flying speed will fly you 30 feet. If nothing's holding you up, you're just going to fall to the ground. A flying barbarian. We might have some more of those coming up. The level 3 wolf totem essentially gives you pack tactics. If you are within 5 feet of an enemy creature that is hostile towards you, your allies have advantage on all attack rolls made on that creature within 5 feet. This makes it really beneficial if you're getting up in their face and your allies are joining you. It's a great combo for a rogue. At level 6, your wolf hunting abilities come into effect. You're able to move at your regular speed while stealthing. It also can help you for tracking enemies and sneaking up on them. Finally, your 14th level wolf totem ability is super cool. If you hit a creature that is large or smaller, you can use your bonus action to knock them prone, just automatically. The bear, the eagle, and the wolf totems are all in the player's handbook. The next totem we're going to talk about is the Elk Totem, and this one's located in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. At level 3 with the Elk Totem, if you are moving without heavy armor, you move an extra additional 15 feet every turn. The elk grants you the ability to just move very quickly. At level 6, you get a similar ability to your first one, except this one's more about travel pace. If you take the Elk Totem, you can travel twice as fast. This increases your travel pace for you and up to 6 companions, so it's not just you that benefits, it's your whole party. This could be super useful if you're in a campaign where you actually have to go long distances to get things. Finally, at 14th level with the Elk Totem, you get the ability to move at an extreme pace through your enemies. You'll use a bonus action, and if you move through a large or smaller creature's space, they have to make a save to see if they get knocked prone by your swift movement. Additionally, they also take damage. The final totem we're going to talk about is the Tiger Totem. Tigers are notoriously good at climbing and jumping, so when you take the Tiger Totem at 3rd level, you get an increased jump height and an increased jump length. You can add an additional 10 feet to your long jump, and you can jump 3 feet higher. At level 6, when you take the Tiger Totem, you get proficiency in 2 skills of the following: Athletics, Acrobatics, Stealth, and Survival. Finally, at 14th level, when you are raging with the Tiger Totem and you move 20 feet in a straight line towards an enemy, you can make an additional attack as a bonus action. Almost kind of like a tiger's pounce and slash. You get an extra attack if you charge at them first. One of the super neat things about the Totem Warrior is that you can not only pick one of the totems, but as you level up and you get to those milestones, that 3rd, 6th, and 14th level, you can pick a different totem for each of those levels. So you can mix and match these totems and get all kinds of different cool abilities that you can combine and work with your party. Since we're already in the Sword Coast Adventures guide, let's go ahead and move over to the next Barbarian that is actually in that book. It's the only Barbarian subclass that's in the book, and it's kind of a strange one. Not a lot of people like this one, and you might see why. In the Sword Coast Adventures guide, there is a Barbarian path called the Path of the Battlerager. This Barbarian path is often reviled as the weakest Barbarian to exist in the entire Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition compendium. This is a Barbarian class that is exclusive only to dwarves, so technically the only way you're allowed to play this Barbarian is if you're a dwarf. Battleragers are kind of a special breed, and they specialize in fighting with spiked armor. The spikes on their armor allow them to physically throw themselves at their enemies. Kind of a weird battle tactic. I guess it works for them. At level 3, your Battlerager gains the ability to use their spiked armor as a weapon. You must be wearing it, and as a bonus action you can make an attack with it. You don your spikes and you run at the enemies like Sonic the Hedgehog? If you're able to hit, you do deal piercing damage. Additionally, if you grapple a creature while wearing the spiked armor, you will automatically deal damage to them. Makes sense, right? Holding a creature close into your spiked arms. You've essentially become a porcupine of barbarianness. At level 6, you gain Reckless Abandon. Whenever you attack recklessly, you gain temporary hit points equal to your con modifier. This is a neat way to refresh temporary hit points every time you attack. However, there are the drawbacks of reckless attacking, but those extra hit points could seriously come in handy. At level 10, you gain Battlerager Charge, which is where you basically just run yourself into the enemy by taking the dash action as a bonus action. You can only do this while you're raging though. At level 14, you gain Spiked Retribution. Anytime you're hit with a melee attack, your spiked armor retaliates and deals damage directly to your opponent. Think of them swinging their mace at you and getting caught on your spikes. I think one of the biggest complaints from this subclass comes from its dwarven exclusivity. Only dwarves can use this class. I could totally see myself playing a halfling wearing this tiny armor and getting thrown into battle. Additionally, some of the damages and some of the abilities that you get as a Battlerager just don't really compare or live up to the other subclasses in the Barbarian subclass list. I think there are some very interesting ways that a Dungeon Master could change or alter this subclass to make it more viable, and I think that could make it more playable. For instance, giving the magical armor spikes the magical property so they deal magic damage would just increase the abilities of this Battlerager quite a bit. All in all, I've never seen someone ever play this Barbarian, so I would be interested to see how it would work. I'm sure there are some ways to make it more interesting and fun for the player. Now we're going to hop over into Xanathar's Guide for Everything. This book has some of the most amazing subclasses, and in this case there are 3 subclasses of Barbarian that we're going to explore. The first subclass introduced in Xanathar's Guide to Everything is the Ancestral Guardian Path. Ancestral Guardian Barbarians draw their power from their ancestors, the people that came before them, maybe people from their tribe. Those ancestors protect and empower them while they are raging. The Ancestral Guardian's Barbarian's rage is said to break through the walls between the material and the astral plane, connecting those ancestor spirits to the Barbarian, tethering them. By accessing their ancestors, the ancestors are happy to fight with their kin in battle. At 3rd level, your Ancestral Guardians come to your aid when you go into a rage. When the Barbarian goes into a rage, the Ancestral Protectors surround them and invoke them with the ability to bring their enemies in to fight. The Ancestors attack the enemy that comes towards their kin, and the enemy will have disadvantage on any attack rolls they make on creatures other than the Barbarian that is raging. Additionally, if that creature attacks an ally, that ally will have resistance to any kind of damage that that creature outputs. The Ancestral Guardians have to focus the enemy's attention on their Barbarian. At 6th level, the Ancestral Spirits can actually form a shield. This shield protects your allies from damage. The Barbarian can use its reaction to send its ancestors to protect and make a shield around one of their allies. This reduces the damage that ally receives from an attacker. At 10th level, you can actually consult your ancestors by use of the Augury or the Clairvoyant spell. You use that spell to summon your ancestors down, and they can speak to you to give you the information that you seek. Finally, at 14th level, your spirits, your ancestors, become vengeful. When you send your spiritual shield to an ally, when that ally is attacked, the spirits negate that damage and deal that damage back to the enemy that attacked your ally. This is an awesome retaliation of force that can often change the flow of a battle. Ancestral Guardians have so many implications for story arcs and interesting background for the Barbarian. I find that Barbarians that take this path are often on some sort of quest to find meaning in the world and connect with their ancestors and their past. These Barbarians are protectors and learners. As they travel with their companions, they're going to take after their ancestors and become a warrior like they were before them. The second Xanathar Barbarian is the Path of the Storm Herald. These barbarians channel their rage almost as if it's a force of nature. Their rage manifests magical effects based on the primal nature that they connect with within. These barbarians have the ability to live and thrive in harsh environments due to their nature as a volatile person. They're also able to integrate really well with people who are in tune with nature, such as druids. The Storm Herald Barbarians are just masters of harsh environments. Much like Totem Barbarians, Storm Herald Barbarians have to pick one of 3 separate types of storm that they will be embodying. Each of these storm auras have different effects. The 3 choices are Desert, Sea, and Tundra. Each of these auras grants a bonus action ability as well as other effects depending on the level of your Barbarian. The magical effects tend to take place when the Barbarian enters a rage. One major difference between this Barbarian and the Totem Barbarian is when you pick a specific storm aura, that aura stays with you all the time. Unless you level up, you can switch it. For instance, if at level 3 I choose the Desert aura, I will have the Desert aura every single level until I decide, let's say between levels 6 and 7, to switch that aura to the Tundra. Then I will get all of the Tundra effects instead of the Desert effects. At level 3, all Storm Herald Barbarians get a bonus action effect that they can use while they're raging. This bonus action does a multitude of different things depending on which storm aura they picked. If they picked the Desert aura, they will deal 2 points of damage to all creatures around them of the fire type. If they use their bonus action with the Sea aura, they can choose to strike an enemy within that aura with lightning. If they use the Tundra aura, any allied creature within the aura gains temporary hit points and is boosted when you use that bonus action. At level 6, your Storm Soul grants you abilities that are in effect when you're not raging. The Storm is able to rest within your soul and give you abilities beyond the norm. If you have the Desert Storm activated, you gain resistance to fire damage, and you don't take effects of being in extreme heat. You also gain the ability to touch any flammable object and light it on fire just by touching it. If you have the Sea aura, you gain resistance to lightning damage, you gain a 30-foot swimming speed, and you can breathe underwater. If you use the Tundra aura, you gain resistance to cold damage, and you get resistance to the cold effects of being in extreme cold. Additionally, you can use an action to touch a 5-foot cube of water, and turn it straight to ice. However, you can't do this if there's a creature in it. At level 10, you gain Shielding Storm, which means you can use your aura to protect your allies. When your allies are within your storm aura, you can give them all resistance to the same type of damage that you are resistant to now. For the desert, it's fire. For the sea, it's lightning. And for the tundra, it's cold. Finally, at 14th level, you get Raging Storm, which means that your storm aura lashes out at enemies when they try to attack you. With the desert aura, if a creature attacks you and hits you, you are able to use your reaction to have your aura lash out at them. And if they fail their dexterity saving throw, they'll take fire damage equal to half your barbarian level. If you hit a creature while using the sea aura, you can force that creature to make a strength saving throw to see if they can hold back the force of the wave. It's almost as if you're pushing a wave into them, and if they fail, they get knocked prone. The tundra aura activates whenever you use the aura feature. When you use that bonus action, any creature that you choose within the aura could be frost covered. And what happens is that creature's movement is brought to 0, meaning they can't move for their next turn because there's frost caking them and holding them in place. Only if they fail a strength saving throw. This is another barbarian type that I don't see often, and I think it's because people compare this to the Totem Barbarian, and they feel like they have more options if they pick the Totem path. From what I've read, this isn't an optimized barbarian, but it has some neat little tricks that you can implement. I find that it might be more interesting if you stick to one path all the way down and never change it, but if you find that you're not having fun with, say, the desert, you might want to switch to one of the other ones. I can't imagine that this would be a difficult thing to fit into a story, but maybe you'll have a DM that can work with you. Path of the Zealot Barbarians are touched by the gods. These barbarians have chosen to fight for their deities before and beyond death. Gods of combat, battle, and violence pick these barbarians, and they are chosen and granted magical abilities from their divine patronage. As chosens of these deities, they are granted awesome divine power that they utilize in battle and to keep them alive. At level 3, the Zealot Barbarians' attacks gain Divine Fury. This allows them to supplement their attacks with necrotic or radiant damage. Additionally, the Zealot's soul is considered marked by the gods. This means that if the Zealot falls in battle, any spell to bring it back to life costs no material components because their soul belongs to the god, and the god will bring it back of their own will. The god is willing to sacrifice that material component in order to bring back their servant. At 6th level, Zealots gain Fanatical Focus. This allows them to reroll any failed saving throw that they may make in battle. Now, this can only be done once per long rest, but it does show the Zealot's devotion to fight for their god and never fail. At 10th level, the Zealot is able to inspire zealotry in their allies. They let out a huge battle cry that can affect up to 10 creatures that gives them advantage on all attacks and all saving throws for an entire round. This divine presence within them bursts forth and empowers all of their allies. Finally, at 14th level, the coolest ability that I've read of a barbarian is called Rage Beyond Death. This ability keeps the Zealot fighting even if they have 0 hit points. The divine energy surges through your body and keeps you going. If you hit 0 hit points, you stay conscious and you're able to keep fighting as long as you're raging. Once your god feels that they have no more need of you, then you can rest. As you continue your fight, you still have to make saving throws, and if you take damage, that counts as a failed save. But you keep fighting and keep fighting, even if you are technically full dead. As long as your rage stays up, you stay alive. This ability is pretty neat, and it also gives the barbarian a chance to get to a place where they can be healed even if they're at 0 hit points. If they're at 0 hit points when they lose their rage, then they go unconscious. The Zealot is a champion of their god and just loves to fight. Their power, which is granted through divine means, is very, very awesome. This power dynamic between the god and the barbarian offers an interesting role-playing element that could be implemented in your games. The final 2 barbarians we're going to talk about showed up in the most recent addition to 5th edition, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Path of the Beast barbarians bring their energy from the beast within. Beast Barbarians rage with primal power, and their ancestry or their culture may have something to do with that. Where did that power come from? The Beast Barbarian is physically transformed by their rage, and it gives them all sorts of neat abilities and tricks that they can use because their body has been altered. These barbarians are rumored to have ancestry in shape changers or lycanthropes. Who knows where your barbarian got their powers? At level 3, the Beast Barbarian gains the ability Form of the Beast. The beast can transform one of 3 parts of their bodies to serve as weapons in combat. They can either gain the ability to use their fangs for a bite attack, their claws for claw attacks, or their tail for a tail attack. The bite will heal you every time you use it to attack. The claws give you an extra attack for slashing, and the tail gives you more range and can protect you from oncoming attackers. At level 6, you're imbued with a bestial soul. Your Form of the Beast weapons become magical, which allows them to break through those non-magical resistances. You also are able to continuously modify your body through rests. When you rest, you can pick from a few different abilities that you can gain. You can have a swimming speed and be able to breathe underwater. You can gain a climbing speed equal to your movement speed that allows you to cling to any surface, kind of like spider climb. Or you can gain the ability to increase your natural jumping distance, which allows you to leapfrog around and move quickly through the battlefield. At 10th level, you can actually curse your opponents with your rage. This is called Infectious Fury, as your rage courses through your enemies. When you hit enemies with your natural weapons, your claws, bite, or tail, they have to save against being sent into a rabid fury. If an enemy fails, they have to use their reaction to attack someone that you designate. Additionally, they take psychic damage because of the rabid fury muddling their mind. Not only does the bestial rage bring out the power within you, it can bring out the beast in others as well. Finally, at 14th level, you can Call the Hunt. This allows you to empower your allies around you, giving them temporary hit points and increases to their attacks. When your allies are empowered like this, they do an extra d6 of damage every time they hit. This allows your allies join you in the hunt and you all take down your prey together. A pretty neat trick. The Beast Barbarian is truly an apex predator, and your abilities and transformations make you one of the more versatile barbarians that I've seen released in Dungeons & Dragons. If you watched my sorcerer video, you know how much I love wild magic. Wild magic is just one of the most fun mechanics in Dungeons & Dragons, having random events happen because of the magic bursting from within. The Path of the Wild Magic Barbarian is probably going to be the one that I try out first. The magic of the wild suffuses nature and the Feywild, and barbarians are particularly susceptible to this kind of thing. Other planar entities and that wild magic that we see all over the place could have impacted these barbarians as they traveled through these distant lands. Barbarians of all races may seek to harness this chaotic magic and infuse it within them, giving their rage special abilities. At level 3, the Wild Magic Barbarian gets a Wild Surge. Every time they go into a rage, they roll a d8, and on a random table, they get a special ability that affects that fight. These effects can include minor teleportation, magical protective lights, or even a laser beam coming out of your chest. Again, there are 8 possibilities that can just bring out all sorts of wacky things happening in combat. At level 6, the Wild Magic Barbarian can kind of inspire their allies as they bolster the magic within them. When they do this to themselves or an ally, they can add a d3 to any ability check or attack roll. Additionally, if they bolster the magic within a spellcaster, they can roll a d3, and that spellcaster can gain a spell slot of the level that the d3 rolled. This could be super helpful in a pinch if, say, your wizard is out of spell slots and they just need one more spell to pop off. You can use that magic bolster and give them a spell slot that they might be missing. You'd be surprised at how important a 3rd level spell slot could be in a pinch. At level 10, the Wild Barbarian gets Unstable Backlash. The magic surge that comes from the rage allows the player to re-roll their wild magic surge. When the Wild Barbarian is hit or fails a saving throw, they can re-roll to get a new effect, maybe to change up the fight in case they need it. Finally, at level 14, the Wild Barbarian gets a modicum of control over their Wild Surges. They roll 2d8 instead of 1 whenever they get a Wild Surge from a Rage, and then they get to choose which of those numbers they want to go with. If they roll doubles, then they get to pick from all 8. I love the creativity that is required when you don't know what you're going to get when you go into a fight. When you roll and you don't know what Wild Surge is coming up, you have to improvise and be creative with how you use it to benefit your party. This is an awesome mechanic, and I always love seeing it in games. I really hope that this video has clued you in on all the different kinds of barbarians that you can try out in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Fun story, I've never actually played a barbarian, so I'm very much looking forward to trying one of these out. I like to dungeon master, so seeing all these different subclasses is really interesting to me, and I can actually learn things about subclasses that I haven't ever touched. I can look at different abilities and use those in my monsters or even as NPCs. That being said, I want you to tell me which barbarian stood out to you the most. Which one did you like hearing about, and which one do you think you'll try next? Please, please, please post something in the comments and I'll be happy to respond so we can talk about D&D stuff. If you want to contact me otherwise, my Twitch and my Twitter are going to be linked below. I love hearing suggestions from people watching my videos on what they want to see next and what they want to see me cover. I'm also always happy to chat about Dungeons & Dragons, video games, or anything else nerdy on those channels. Thanks again for watching, and as always, happy adventuring.